Derry Green, founder of the Secret Garden Glamping. Thank you very much for being here.
No problem. You're very welcome.
So I originally covered the Secret Garden Glamping shortly after your appearance in Dragon's Den, which was I think January 2024, and I
Mm.
think we can say that went pretty well for you. I mean, you clicked with Deborah better than I've seen most founders get on with dragons in the den at that time.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. To be fair, all of the dragons were awesome. It's funny when I think back to it now, and when I watch the episode again, I forget how interested Peter was. Peter was, and he is amazing. Sarah's phenomenal. I've done lots of stuff with Sarah. She's just a great human being. So yeah, it was a brilliant experience.
Definitely. And I think since then, the Secret Garden Glamping has only continued to grow. You've now got pods across 3 sites across the country, including one down near where I am in Cornwall. Yeah, and I think just this coming Friday, there's actually quite a big development for the Secret Garden Glamping as well, if you want to touch a little bit on that.
Yeah, so we've got a new location opening at Devon. So that'll be the fourth site now. It's stunning down there. It's starting with one new unit. The dates go live this Friday. We've just had all the confirmation through literally 10 minutes ago. So yeah, everything's ready down there. And then we've got another site opening for late October, early November. Can't say where that is yet, but we've got, and then several as we go forward. I think it'll be up to 5 by the end of this year, and then the rest will be coming online next year then.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I think if all goes well, this video should be going out on this Friday as well.
Oh, there
So
we go
anybody
then. Yeah,
seeing this, yeah,
perfect
get
time.
straight
There
over
you
to the
go.
website.
Yeah, if you head
They
onto the
book up
website
very
from
quickly.
9 a.m. on Friday, the dates will go live for Devon. Sorry. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I think at one point the booking list or the waiting list was I think a year and a half for some of the pods. So it definitely backs up very quickly.
Yeah, some go. I mean, at one point we was well, technically you couldn't book some units. Still, it's hard to book some units because we just recently opened the calendar for 2028, so that's released some
Wow.
availability. But some were booked all the way to the end of 2027. But now we've got more. So yeah, hopefully that comes down slightly.
Yeah, plenty of room, lots to look
Yeah.
forward to. So I think you've got more than 15 different pods now, and they've all got different themes. You've got wildernesses and treetops and oases down Cornwall. You've got coves. There's obviously the manor in Lancashire, and all of the ideas for the different pods they come from you yourself, don't they? You come up with all the different themes and ideas.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I genuinely love about this. I love designing units. I love building units, coming up with different ideas, and that's what it's always been. It's this ongoing evolution of what we started building. That first one that I built to what we're building today is almost like two different things, and that's what really drives me. I love building and creating exciting different things. We're doing it currently. We've got a well, yeah, nobody knows about this yet, actually. We've got a new tiki bar opening at the Skelmersdale site.
Wow.
And yeah, we've been building that out the past few weeks. It's almost done now. And it's going to be a phenomenal new addition because it's what else can we do? It's not just glamping. It never has been. It's all been about what you can do whilst you're away and adding to that and creating benefit for our customers.
Yeah, like you said, I've seen recently you are looking to expand it beyond just the glamping umbrella, aren't you? I mean, you're almost providing a full hotel experience out there. I've seen concierges out in the wild. You've got all sorts of stuff going on.
Well, that's exactly what it is. Yeah. So I mean, I always said this when I came to doing this business in the first place. I have never been a glamping site owner. I'd never really come to it. I used to go camping as a kid, and when it came to glamping, it always baffled me that everybody focused on the unit. So in theory, the tent. So when you go camping, I remember when I was a kid, we'd go with my mum and dad. We'd spend an hour setting up the tent. Whether it be a big one, small one, didn't really matter. But you set it up and you walked away and you went and swam in a river or climbed a tree or whatever it was you did. What you didn't do was sit in a tent for 2 days. So it baffled me why everybody focused on what is a really fancy tent. And now, as long as you've got minimum standards, there is a caveat there, which is everybody wants ensuite facilities, they want heating, lighting, internet, all these sorts of things. As long as you've got that, the unit really doesn't matter. That's just a really fancy tent to have the experience of whatever it is you're doing there. And that's always been my focus. So the units really don't matter. Just the same as it being a hotel. You know, the reason people like hotels is because you have all the amenities of a hotel, and there's no reason why we can't do that in a woodland, because it just makes it better. So yeah, we've got a lot of things coming down the line. I did a whole new manifesto in sort of December, January of what the next 5 years of glamping look like. It's literally sat on my desk next to me here, and that is the roadmap of the whole industry. This isn't what I'm doing, but inevitably what we do ends up feeding down into the rest of the industry. So I know exactly what we're doing for the next 5 years.
Yeah, and I've seen from previous things that you've done that you do have a lot of plans for the UK glamping industry and the tourism industry, and I do want to ask you about that. But just as you've got a lot of practice, clearly now building these pods, do you find that you've kind of streamlined the process? Do you have a procedure or a list of things that you know you've got to smash out when you start building them, or is every single one a different kind of unique learning experience?
Yeah, each one is to fit within its own environment. So, for example, here at Skelmersdale and all the locations, in all fairness, they're built around what's there. So rather than leveling a space, making it flat, and building a load of stuff in a row, we don't. We build around the trees, around the woodland, around the landscape. So each one is absolutely individual, although we have similarities across all of them now. So it's like I say, it's been this learning curve. We've gone through 15 different lighting suppliers before we found one that actually works bang on every single time. So we have certain aspects, like all of them now have outdoor bar areas, swings, hot tubs, saunas, steam rooms, these sorts of stuff, which we have suppliers and ways of doing them, which we replicate over and over because we know it works. We've tried 9 different ways of doing it, found the best way and do that. But then, as with everything, technology evolves, people's tastes and trends change. So originally, 5.5 years ago, the first unit I built had hot tub, sauna, cold plunge. Nobody was really interested in it. So I'd stopped doing saunas and things like that for the next 5 or 6 units. And then sort of 2 years ago, the kind of wellness, health, spa type facilities have really kind of been pushing on it, in their own right, the day spa type stuff. So now everybody does want saunas and steam rooms and cold plunge and hot tub because people understand the benefit of them now, where before nobody did. So these things are ever evolving. But yeah, we like being individual with everything we do.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's kind of a mixture of your own kind of ideas of how you can transform the landscape or the situation that you're in, and also keeping track of the general trends of what people are looking for and finding kind of a nice marriage of that you can then shout about on social media.
Exactly, yeah. And we have our our kind of on-brand stuff that we do, so people recognize instantly that it's something of ours. Although there's lots of, I'll say, Temu replicas is probably the best way of putting it. Where people try and imitate what we do. But luckily, whenever we do, so I mean, Devon is a perfect example. Devon's going to launch. The bookings are going online on Friday. We're going to release the photos and videos probably in 2 or 3 weeks' time. So the first time anybody sees it, whether that be a guest or a competitor, is on that date. And it will take 6 to 9 months to replicate what we've done there. And by then, we've done something different. So although it's everybody always playing this ever catch-up game, we're always ahead of it. So it's fine.
Nice. And initially, I remember seeing, it was sort of by accident that the coverage that you got of the first site was Love Island themed.
Yeah.
Was that, I forget if it was you'd seen Love Island, incorporated a few things, and then they started taking that, or it was just completely coincidental?
Yeah. So, well, when it all started, the original kind of thing that went viral was because I never intended on opening a glamping site. I built the first pod in the garden in lockdown for me and the kids. And the first news story that came out was done by Unilad. And it was what a dad had built in lockdown for his kids. So it's a photo of me, my son and my daughter, and that was what it was. And then when Lad Bible put it on, that went viral. Then when it filtered down to the likes of the Daily Mail, the Sun, the Times, all these sorts of ones, they all kind of related it to Love Island. So one of the news stories was Dad builds Love Island pod in Garden, because as Love Island came back on, it comes relevant. So I just went into it. I wasn't doing it in the first place to be like that. But then you look at whatever organizations are talking about and how they're describing your business, well, you lean into it. So that's exactly what we did. And yeah, it snowballed from there then.
Yeah, and it's really paid off. Yeah. And also in terms of what kind of social media strategy you have, I really like, you've mentioned about it slightly before, but you leave it as a surprise, don't you? It's sort of a big event. Whenever there's a big reveal of one of the sites or whatever, you have a whole countdown thing. People tune in at 9 a.m. on whatever day for it as well. And I think you've likened it before to opening a present on Christmas or something. So you've got a real build up to it. I think that's essential as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of things with that. When I first started off doing it, it wasn't because, you know, it wasn't some genius marketing ploy that I'd come up with. Originally, it was because I had nothing to show anybody. You know, I had to, when I built my, what was in theory my second unit, but the first unit as a business, I had zero revenue. I had no funds to build it. So I had to do kind of my own version of crowdfunding. So I put a logo on and said, I want to build something. It's going to be amazing. If you pre-book it, then I could get the funds together to build it. So nobody knew what I was building because they booked before I'd started it. And then when it came to opening, then I launched and it was this big thing. But it does play off on lots of different marketing tactics, you know, like fear of loss, like opening a present, joining a queue. Everybody loves joining a queue. You know, we don't know why we do it. We're really bad for that. But again, it gives people that excitement of, what is it? They know what, I mean, it only works because they know what we've done before. So they know it's going to be at least as good as the previous one, but as with everything, it's always going to be better. So they know that as a fact. And then that means that when we do something extraordinary and they get to see it, it is literally like opening a present on Christmas, because they have no idea what it is they've booked or what they're going to. And those first guests, literally the ones who are turning up on day one, have not seen anything until they walk in that door. So it could be anything, and it's you know, it's really exciting to see how people react to that.
Yeah, that's pretty encouraging as well, that, you know, that people have enough faith in you that, like you say, you can literally sell them. As far in their minds, it could just be an empty plot of grass. You know, they really have no idea what's there, but because they've seen what comes before, like you say, they are willing to invest that money in it.
That's it, and this is where our strength in our brand is really important, and our audience as well. You know, they've kind of bought into what we do and how we do it, and they're all really positive and real. I mean, again, it only works because everything we do exceeds what we've done before, and that model is great. But then if you have a kind of a dull launch, you know, if we did something that wasn't in keeping with what we do or below par, then all that momentum, all that brand recognition that we built up disappears overnight. So it's a very fine line to go along, because you could lose everything that you built up for 5 years overnight if you don't, you know, come up with the goods. But that's what the challenge is for us. How do we do that? How do we increase on what we've done?
Yeah, that's the excitement. That's the challenge, isn't it? Definitely. Yeah, and I think even the name, you know, Secret Garden Glamping, that is a specific vibe to the brand. It kind of communicates very well what the idea is. Was that a name that came about quite quickly, or did you have to work on finding it?
No, it was the kids, to be honest. Yeah, they
Yeah.
said it. Yeah, because when we did it, because it was literally in the corner of the garden, which was all overgrown, and to them it was literally like a secret garden. And it was my son and my daughter who said, "This is like our own little secret garden." And I was like, "Right, that's it. That's what it's called." So, and again, before, this was pre it being a business, so we just called it the Secret Garden because it was at the bottom of the garden, and that's what it was to them. And then when it came to being a business, we carried on that through.
Nice. Yeah, and at what point did you think, like you said before, it was originally a COVID project. It was just something to do because your other European transport business had folded with the lockdown. You suddenly had a lot of spare time, and also your kids to entertain during the lockdown. So you didn't have any aspiration for it to be a startup business or anything that would go UK wide. So what was the point where you thought, actually, this is something that I can commit the next years of my life to.
So in all fairness, I still haven't decided that. It's all I
No.
want to, yeah, all I ever want to do is try and create a space where it means I can stay here. So my original thing was when I sat down and wrote on the back of a fag packet of what I needed to do. I thought if I can get 3 going, that means there's enough revenue coming in where I can stay here, pick the kids up from school, and I won't have to go to work, sort of thing. So that was my initial goal. And then when we got to the 3, that was great. And I was like, well, I want to do one more, and then I want to do one more. And it's always about doing one more. Obviously now it's on a larger scale, but there was no real plan on it. I thought, we just try and see. And in all fairness, it was like almost like I was in the Matrix. Like I thought at some point this is going to stop. Like, where is it? And it's like me testing my own boundaries, right? If I do another, surely that's it. We're not going to sell it out. We're not going to be able to do more. But it doesn't. It goes further. I'm like, okay, well, I'll try again and just keep going until it doesn't, I guess, is probably the answer.
Yeah, well, those are some of the best kind of startup stories. Is just where you just keep going. If it keeps working, you just keep going and see how far it goes.
Yeah.
But as it keeps going, I know, I've seen some founders that as their businesses grow and grow, they find it quite hard to kind of offload some of that responsibility of direction and business onto other people for the sake of the growth. Do you ever see a point in which other people could be designing other sites, or do you think that it's important to keep it, like what it is, a personal kind of family project, and if you move from that, you would lose something?
Yeah, well, for this, my honest answer is all I really care about is being able to do what I want to do. So money doesn't interest me, fame doesn't interest me. None of those things interest me. All I want to do is like I'm doing today, because what you can't see from this camera is below here, I am filthy. I've got my shorts on. I'm building this tiki bar. I've been out there since 6:30 this morning. As long as I get to do that, that's all that matters. So the good thing from my point of view is everything else, because I'm not interested in generating millions of pounds in profit every year. I'd rather have 20 of my friends here, which is exactly what I do, to do all the other stuff that they enjoy doing. And then that leaves me to tinker about in the woods. I should not be building that bar down in the woods, but I want to. And that's where the difference is. I could easily get a team of people to come and do it from what I want and actually save money on the management expenses, accountancy, all these sorts of things. But I'd just be creating a job I don't want to do. So I'm fine with letting go of anything and all of it, in all fairness, as long as I get to tinker around with what I want to tinker with. That's it to me. So I'm just always creating a job that I want to do rather than have to do.
That's brilliant. Yeah, and I think, again, back to the Dragon's Den appearance, that's really carried across there as well, because one of the things that I think really resonated with people was you refusing to do surge pricing in holidays and the Dragons were really kind of, like, well, it's basic business. Why would you not capitalize on that? Everybody does that, but it just doesn't fit into,
No.
your vision, what you want to do, and you don't do it.
No, exactly. And it's there's lots of stuff and lots of opportunities and lots of different things that we could do. Again, if my accountant came and ran the business, there's loads of stuff that we wouldn't do because on a piece of paper, it's pointless. But again, you take away all these little bits and then it's not the same thing. So then it doesn't work. All these little bits make it work. And then, the pricing, I know what it costs to run a site. And the problem with most businesses, I guess, in this sector, they still treat it as seasonal. It's camping, it's glamping. It can only run from, say, May to September. We've got to make as much money as we can because we've got to last over winter. And when you treat it as a seasonal business, you do have to pull every single penny that you possibly can out of the time that you're open. Where I genuinely have never seen it as a seasonal business. It's a year-round business. So when you're talking year-round, then, well, we don't have to rip people off in summer because we know we're going to make a loss in winter. We just have this nice baseline all year round, and it works way better. And then customers are happier. And there's lots of, there's a whole section on why I do that. But inevitably, it's because I hate getting ripped off. Simple as that.
Yeah.
And I think in general,
does.
most people feel the same way I do. And, people are really conscious of where they're spending the money now, what they're spending it on. As belts tighten, you kind of analyze everything that you spend. Do I really need to do this? Do I really need to do that? And people need to, you have a feeling when you spend money, and you're spending money on any scale, whether it's tens of pounds or tens of millions of pounds, you still have to feel good about what you spent it on or what you're doing. It's pointless just spending money. So if you feel like that you're being treated fairly, or you're getting value for money, or the business that you're spending it on has the same vision or outlook that you do, you just feel better about it. You've never felt great about giving Mr. Hilton another 200 quid to add to his 200 million. It doesn't work like that. And you know that there's a necessity in some things, but we try and make it a great experience all the way through.
Definitely, yeah. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the industry as a whole. But just before I do that, like you said before, it's a very kind of family-oriented business, family-driven business. I'd also like to ask slightly about the experience you had working, I think, with your dad had a business building really all sorts, from what I could see. I mean, I've seen Christmas grottos, rides for Disney, film, TV sets, and you'd help out with that when you were younger, which feels like a natural progression into what you're doing now. How did that kind of experience feed into the Secret Garden Glamping?
Well, it always has been, yeah. My dad, again, it was not dissimilar to my dad's business, because everything, every model, every animation, everything came from his head. He'd have an idea of what he wanted to do, and he'd get people to my Uncle Will was doing all the sculpting for stuff, so he'd say, right, I want this here and this here and this here. How do we do that? So everything came from him, and it was always a visual thing. It was the art side. He always said the art side of the industry, and that's what I love doing. I love designing and kind of creating things from nothing. But this whole work ethic came from how I see my dad do stuff. My dad's business was probably one of the last era of true businesses where everybody who worked there had a job for life. They worked from being a teenager up to the 60s, and you treat your staff and your customers properly, and they stay with you. As simple as that. Now it's a lot different. Everybody's always interested in accruing new customers and new staff, never really in retention of staff, because the cost ratio benefit is not there. It's better to just keep focusing on the next ones, not the ones that are there. And I don't think it is like that. I like having a team around me. That means we can all work together and have fun and play. And it's funny, actually. So I went to Blackpool the other night because I found, on all things, I was flicking through Facebook Marketplace and I seen a gnome. And I was like, that is one of my dad's. And I went up, and this guy had it in his garage that he'd found like 20 years ago. He'd bought it from somewhere. And it was one of the last gnomes that came out of my dad's factory. And somehow it's ended up in somebody's garage in Blackpool. So I went and picked it up, and I've got it in my garage now. So yeah, it's all, I took it all apart. It's got all the stuff that was built there by my dad. So yeah, it was random, totally random. But it was, I seen it from being a kid all the way up until I was, when my dad sold the business when I was 19, 20, something like that. And I always loved it there. I always did.
Yeah. Like you said, it's that combination of like the practical kind of business building side, but also the art side, and the really taking care over the creativity and the uniqueness in it. And I think, this is a rabbit hole that I won't go down now, but as we move forward further into computerization and AI and everything, I think that unique human creativity and perspective, and really kind of, having your own flair on things, is really what makes businesses stand out now, I reckon.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree.
Yeah, definitely. And aside from your dad, was there anybody else, sort of any mentors or people that that were kind of inspired you or helped you as you were growing the Secret Garden Glamping?
To be fair, friends, family. Well, actually, no. Everybody. I'll take it back. Actually, let's go to the very start. Everybody thought I was insane, right? Everybody tried to talk me out of it. Family, friends, everybody said that's stupid. Why is anybody going to come and stay in your garden and scare me? It's a ridiculous idea. But once everybody came round to it and seen what I was doing and understood it, then it was help up everybody. Because I don't know the saying. It's like you're never more than kind of 5 friends away from Bill Gates or whatever else. Do you know what I mean? You have this period. So if I needed something, especially at the start in the early days, I'd phone somebody and they'd know somebody who could do it or has done it. So my kind of friend group between them all, I knew somebody who'd done groundwork, who'd done electrical work, who'd done plumbing, and so on and so on. So I could lean on these people to get advice and help that I knew I could trust. So that was kind of key at the start, getting that help off or recommendations off family and friends of who I could speak to and what I could do, because it was all new. So that was really important then. But my dad was always the biggest influence on literally everything I do on a day-to-day basis, how I look on the world, what I expect from things, how I want to be treated, how I want the world to look, all that sort of stuff.
So yeah, now thinking about the wider glamping industry in the UK as a whole, from my understanding, I mean, during lockdown, I was at university, so I had quite a specific experience of the pandemic and lockdown. But from my understanding, it kind of changed the way that some people view holidays. You know, I think that terms like staycation really became a lot more popular. So how important do you think that this kind of homegrown glamping industry is for the UK tourism industry? And how do you also see it sitting alongside the appeal of maybe going abroad to kind of sunnier climates?
Yeah, well, you're kind of looking at two different things. I genuinely don't think we are ever going to be a substitute for your typical summer holiday type thing. I've never seen it like that. Most of our customers that come are coming for birthdays, anniversaries, graduations, weddings, all these different things. So the perfect example is my son and daughter. So my daughter's birthday is in February, my son's birthday's in June. His birthday's always sunny. We have a pool party or whatever. My daughter's is always freezing cold. So it's that sort of thing where you want to do something for her that you can't do it's not going to specifically be in the summer holidays. If your birthday's in September, October, November, December, January, you want to do something that's still exciting and fun, and you have to change what options you've got. So we're always an addition to a holiday. And then as you get into, I genuinely think this business is recession proof in a lot of ways, because when you get, with belts tighten and things change, you might negate the summer holiday. Yeah, we might not do it this year. We'll do it next year instead. But you're still going to have those smaller events. So birthdays, weddings, anniversaries, these sorts of things are always going to happen every year, because you're not going to put your 40th birthday on hold and have it, when you're 42 instead. You're still going to do something. And we all need something to look forward to, inevitably. And the way people spend money now as well, that they're far more eager to spend money on experiences than they are on physical items. You've never gone and got a new washing machine and thought, oh, that's great, that's amazing. But if you book a night away with your partner to celebrate your 5th wedding anniversary, then that's you do have a feeling. Again, it comes down to the feeling of what you're spending your money on, and experiences are really key for people now. Again, from lockdown, we've realized we need to engage with others. We need to be outside. We need to be doing things, because when it's taken away from us, we don't like it. So let's do it while we can. So it is more important to people now. But equally, you can have an amazing summer holiday in the UK. This year, we've had some phenomenal weather. It's been great. You can't always bet on it, but this year's been phenomenal for getting away in the UK.
It's been a brilliant summer here, actually. Yeah. And I think Devon, back to the Devon site, that's a great one for me, because I had plenty of childhood summer holidays in Devon as well. So it's a perfect place there. Cornwall.
This is what, again, it does come to that, because it's the memories. My fondest things are always with my dad, for example. It was thinking back to where the things that my dad did and where he took us, and it was a lot different. When you're looking at 30, 40 years ago, most people didn't go abroad for a summer holiday every year. So you in general have memories of, going to Scarborough, going to Brighton, going to Blackpool, whatever it means. And those memories of those places, yes, they might not be as amazing as a 5-star resort in Dubai, but actually the memory is way more important, and because that's what's going to stick with you, for the next 50 years of your life. You're never talking about what color the curtains were or what the thread count of the bed sheets were. That's never something that comes in conversation. It's all about the memories of things you do whilst you're away, and that's what's important to everybody, whether it be 1-star or 5-star. It's still important to everybody.
Yeah. And you know, people view the lockdown as quite a unique thing, and it was unique in its scale and kind of the catastrophe of it. But from what you're saying, you know, it's not actually that a unique thing where people are bringing those special experiences to become almost kind of more accessible in the country that you're in. And after lockdown, like you said, people are valuing them more, realizing that we need those experiences more than anything else. So actually, there's a huge room for businesses bringing those memories and those and those special situations to somewhere that you don't need to get a plane to, get a train.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we've all
perfect.
realized that everything can be taken away in an instant.
Mm,
So
mm,
you find people are much more engaged with others and trying to work out what they want to do with their lives and their careers and things like that. It's not just the 9 to 5 grind that it's always been. It's back to more kind of living for the weekend and doing those things and doing those exciting things with your family and friends, because you don't know when the next time is going to be, when it's not going to be there to do.
yeah. And you've been a real spokesperson for that kind of thing in the glamping industry. I've seen recently, you know, you've been really maybe even shaping the way the industry's going forward, building those kind of ideas. What would you find is the best and the worst thing about working in the UK's glamping industry now?
Well, you're right. I'm massively keen on the glamping industry as a whole. That's where GITA came from, the Glamping Industry Trade Association.
Mm,
We've got
yeah.
our first year AGM this year at the glamping show next week. So it's been a year and it's been phenomenal because there is the glamping industry as a whole is phenomenal. The issue with it is we're all individual owner operators. It's got to a business size that's, we're talking, well, across the world, billions and billions of dollars. But there's no trade association. Everybody's doing their own individual thing. And inevitably, we're way stronger together. If we want to promote this to the UK market and the worldwide market, because we know the amount of people that visit the UK for lots of different reasons. We need to kind of stand together and make sure that we're, a rising tide raises all ships. We want to bring these
Mm,
standards into glamping, which has been this kind of subset that's missed. It doesn't really fall under camping. It doesn't really fall under hotels. We're just kind of out there in the wilderness a little bit on our own. And it's really important to kind of bring everybody together and be able to push for better standards, because one or two businesses that aren't doing the right thing or working in the right way can bring the whole industry into disrepute. You see it in a lot
mm,
of different industries. People don't trust um well, travel companies now are, they had the whole thing where there was a lot of distrust because some major ones went down and under, so there's this kind of whole thing. So we want to make sure that the whole industry is solid, because from my point of view, it's not because I'm selfless and I want to do everything. How do I secure my business for the next 20, 30 years? It's making sure that all businesses are doing well for the next 20, 30 years.
definitely. Yeah, it's a brilliant outlook. And have you found that other glamping business owners are on board with the idea?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been phenomenal. The response has been amazing, and it's great to work with other site owners. And again, our industry specifically, the likes of Airbnb and Booking.com, and these ones are kind of ripping the heart and soul out of it to some degree, where everybody's having to go with these sites. And we want to try and move away from the booking platforms and back to what it used to be, where you'd phone up a campsite owner and you'd go and turn up and that sort of stuff. And it's because that's where we really shine. It's hospitality, and we want to be hospitable to our guests. Technology is great in some respects, but it takes out a lot of that personalization, like the booking platforms do, and we want to be there for our guests. So yeah, we've got lots of exciting things coming down the line with GITA as well.
Yeah. Would you say that it's again, as we go into sort of an even more digital age, actually the glamping industry is in a pretty good situation because you can't replicate the experience of being in a nicely built, furnished glamping pod on, you know, your computer or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. For us, it's the perfect position because the technology is great. It does help us on a daily basis with lots of different things. But then it's still a humanized experience. You can't automate everything, and we're really well placed because that's what people like. They like that communication. They like that interaction. They
Mm.
don't want to be just speaking to a bot for whatever, the travel lodge or whatever. Do you know what I mean? You know, everything's automated to an nth degree because that is physically about, you know, making money, nothing else. Most people are in the glamping industry more of a lifestyle business because they want to spend time outdoors, they want to spend time in nature, and if they can do it and survive, then that's all they really want to do. That's where it's slightly different with us as we go forward now, because there's never really been in the UK that brand across glamping and you know, multiple site operator. Everybody seems to be individual owner operators. The US think totally different about it, because I love that about the US. They think about having 50 sites across the whole country. Do you know what I mean? So they've always been working on that, where we don't. It is still a lifestyle business in the UK, but it can be a fully fledged big business in its own right if you want it to be.
Are there any particular large trends that you see in the glamping industry that you think might explode over the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh, absolutely. So the past 5 years has been this whole arms race towards building bigger and better things. So, you know, 5 years ago, you know, having a hot tub as standard wasn't a thing. You know, having an ensuite wasn't standard as a thing. You know, so there's been this big arms race for 5 years about building bigger and better things, and we're pretty much at the fine tip of the spear there, without going to big infrastructure like centre parks. You know, where you've got swimming pools and tennis courts and that sort of thing. There's not much more you can put in a unit, although it's, you know, it's incremental. There's changes, and for us, we realised that quite early on. So what I think the whole industry is going towards is all around service. You know, it's all around. You know, people have thrown about for the past 5 years, and I've been saying it over and over. They say it's, you know, it's about an experience. You know, experiential travel market and these sorts of things. But everybody's getting it wrong. They have done for a long time. You know, everybody says they provide an experience, but, you know, providing somebody with some marshmallows and wood to roast marshmallows on a fire isn't an experience. Do you know what I mean? That's just a facility. It's an addition. An experience is something above and beyond what you would be doing. That's when you go to, you know, the Vatican and the Pope shows you around. Do you know what I mean? That's an experience. So it's these sorts of things that are being missed by the market, and it's so easy to do, but it comes down to staff and people. You know, we want to be engaged and looked after by somebody, not by ChatGPT.
You said before about it being sort of a lifestyle business as much as it is sort of anything else. Some founders, parent founders, find that running a business, the difficulties and the stresses of building a startup get in the way of family time, essentially. But you've always done well and made an effort to include your kids and your family in the designing of the pods, the building of the pods, even the naming of the business. Do you find that this makes it kind of easier for you to achieve that kind of coveted work-life balance, or are there still elements in your routine that you think could be improved in that direction?
Yeah, it's always hard. It's funny, my missus is just sat here on the sofa, and I know she's listening to what I'm exactly going to say now. It is, you know, it's always going to be hard. Any founder will say it's, you know, you never finish work ever. You know, it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is what it is. I find it personally very easy, because as far as I'm concerned, in my head, I'm not working. I'm at home doing my hobby every single day. It's like I retired 5 years ago, and I get to just play about in the woods and build dens and that sort of stuff. So from my perspective, it's amazing. I drop the kids off at school this morning. I'll pick them up this afternoon. I'm here at home every day. I love it. Now, from their perspective, it's an entirely different thing, because I'm working all the time. I'm still working all the time. So there's these kind of two differences. I think genuinely it's probably easier if I went to work. So if I was going to an office at 9 a.m. and coming back at 5 p.m., there wouldn't be any crossover. I see myself as doing my hobby. Everybody else is as I'm working. So it's always difficult. It's made easier because now I can drop things. You know, if my son needs to go to the bike park, I can just stop what I'm doing, take him to the bike park, come back and carry on. It just makes my day a little bit longer. But I love it. I love the way I've got it now. and yeah, I wouldn't ever change it.
Nice. And getting theoretical, what would you say your definition of success is? And would you say that's changed over time while building the business?
I think it always changes, in all fairness. So honestly, I've gone past it. I'm past success. Success was getting to 3 units. That was my, and I know the
Yeah.
goalpost always changes. It does, as far as what you want to achieve, either in life, money, family, friends, whatever. That goalpost is ever moving, and that's why we're always doing more. I genuinely think I've succeeded past, way beyond anything I would have ever dreamed of doing with this business. And anything else is a bonus. And it does feel like that. It does feel like one day it'll stop. So I'm just making the most of it while I'm here, sort of thing. Because anything I've ever wanted to do with this business has happened. I'd love to, again, now I'd love to do more. That's the entrepreneur side. It's like the devil and angel. You've got my entrepreneur side that just wants to do more all the time. And then the kind of, I know I could sit back now and I've got everything I want. Why do I want to change what we're doing now? But I can't stop myself doing it. So it's always a pull and push fight to try and keep that under control.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say is one sort of potential project or service or product that you wish that somebody else would work on right now?
That I wish they would work on within my business, or
just completely separate? You're doing Secret Garden Glamping,
yeah.
but you just wish that somebody else would get on with this other thing.
Ooh, that's a good one. I mean, I've got loads of different things that I love doing. I mean, actually, so merging several different things together. So I love winter sports. I love going skiing with my son and that sort of stuff. And I think there's a whole section being missed when we talk about going on holiday. So physical holidays, whether that's Benidorm or whether that's the French Alps, wherever it might be. I think the principles that we put in place here could easily move over into that side of the industry. And I'd love to have somewhere to go and do. It wouldn't be glamping, and it wouldn't be just, I'm not on about accommodation. I'm not specifically on about any part. I'm kind of on about a whole, experience across the world as you go forward, I guess, is probably the easiest way of putting it in. Because I like doing things, I like learning things. I think, seeing things, there's all these different opportunities.
Yeah, an international network of experiences, all with different creative people in different countries all collaborating.
Yeah, because it's always about the people. Some of the best times I've ever had are random things that I have no particular interest, but if somebody's passionate about something, you're won over by it. Do you know what I mean? I remember going to a whiskey tasting thing. It was somebody bought it me, and because I drink Jack Daniels every so often, and it was Scotch whiskey. I've got no interest in Scotch whiskey. I hate the taste of it. It's awful stuff. But I went on this thing, and the guy talking about it was so passionate. I got involved for 3 hours. It was awesome. I hated the taste of every single thing I tasted, but it was awesome, and I really enjoyed it because of the person that was taking it. And I think, again, as we go into more with AI, that becomes even stronger as a lead to do things, because you want somebody to be passionate about something. We can do everything else via AI. That's not a problem, but you can't have somebody stood there telling you about, like I said, the Vatican. Do you know what I mean? I've got no particular interest in it, but if somebody was really passionate, I'm sure I'd love it. It's those sorts of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And one last question now. Looking back across your entire journey with the Secret Garden Glamping, the answer might be nothing by the sounds of things. It might be, but if you could do anything differently with the knowledge that you have now, what do you think you'd change?
Oh, so it's hard. So there's two answers. If I think about it from an entrepreneurial side, I should have gone all out in year one, raised capital, and we'd have 100 locations now. Do you know what I mean? Like we could, I should have really really kind of dominated everything early on. And I think that's probably what I'd change from an entrepreneurial side of things. If I'm physically saying about the business, that's what I should do. You know, it should be where, as opposed to this gradual growth. But then, you know, that would have come with a lot of other problems. It's easier saying and all that sort of stuff. From a kind of family side of stuff, I think if I'd halved the size it is now and kept it as it is, I'd be retired now. I'd be sat here just doing whatever I wanted every day. But to me, I'd probably end up bored and I'd need to do something else. So it wouldn't have stopped anyway. So it's this kind of, both sides of it. From a business side, I should have grown a lot quicker. From a personal side, I should make it smaller. And it's always trying to find that balance in the middle.
Yeah, sounds like the sweet spot is kind of where you're sitting right now. So that's worked out pretty well.
Yeah. Well, now it's a hard one again as we expand to multiple locations. Well, the first one or two is hard, really difficult because it's a whole new thing. But then all the hurdles are over with that. So actually going to 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 should be a lot easier. But again, like I say, it's always that kind of balance, and you never find it until it's either gone past you or it's just coming up. You know, you never understand when you're in that perfect spot. And again, for me, there's never an end point. It's always just the start of a new thing.